Hi there.
Are we recording?
We did it. I pushed the button the right way, which isn't always the case, but
Good job. I've got several buttons and things in front of me too right now, and I'm not sure if I've pressed all of them right. I mean, I've done this 45 times, but I still can't seem to get it right. So
well, and
good
then
job.
let's introduce ourselves and then we'll go on from there. So
Oh, right. Okay. So for those of you who haven't watched us before, or those of you who are tuning in again and you just don't remember from last time, I am Megan Holmes. I am here in gloomy St. Louis, Missouri, coming to you from the Needle Point Clubhouse, just outside of St. Louis.
I'm Melissa McLeod, and I'm here in Grosse Pointe, Michigan, just outside of Detroit at the Wool and the Floss. And together we are the Pointing It Out team. So we appreciate you tuning in. If you are first time here, or if you've been here before and haven't hit subscribe yet, please hit subscribe because that helps other Stitchers find us. And for some reason, people are kind of having some fun talking stitchy stuff all the time. So here we are.
I don't know if they're having fun, but I'm having fun, which is why we keep doing it. So
Lots of nice. So
we've been getting very nice comments and we really appreciate it. It kind of keeps us powering through because we have been very busy, but this is something that we just really like doing. And we don't do it because we get paid. We just do it because we like it. We love this craft. And we want to keep informing people and getting good information out there. And so we are super excited. By the way, I'm in my shop. We're still open. So there might be some chitter chatter. There might be some phone calls, but whatever.
we're going to have this thing here, and we might even have some dog barking because we're actually closed to walk-ins, but that doesn't mean people won't walk their dogs by my big glass windows where my dogs want to say hello. So,
Rookie wanted to come today and I just couldn't take it. I just had too much in the brain. So, but anyway, we are excited to be here again this week together. We've been trying to do a few more of these together that are a little more informative. Oftentimes we interview someone. I think it was 2 weeks ago, we talked together about Rainbow Gallery. We did the little white cards. And we had so much fun doing it that we decided to do another threadline topic this week.
Yep.
And so with a little more smarts than we had last time, we actually took some time, did some research, got a whole lot of great information from the horse's mouth this time. We talked to Tracy Robinson, who started together with her brother the Planet Earth fiber line, which also involves some accessories as well. So here we are. We're here to talk Planet Earth. I don't know about you, but my Rainbow Gallery boxes and my Planet Earth boxes are both giant.
I'm sitting right in front of my wall. Do you see my whole new beautiful Planet Earth line behind me? That's Pepper.
Gorgeous. It's gorgeous. I'm actually sitting in front of some canvases only because it's a little closer to the back of the shop and I was afraid we were still open, so we might have customers, but they look great. They look really good.
We had such a good time talking to Tracy yesterday, right?
I don't know. Today, Wednesday, Friday, I don't know.
Do not disturb. So sorry, we're gonna have a little ding dong. So that's okay. But Tracy has a twin brother. You forgot to mention that, and that's
I'm sorry. Yes.
dear to my heart. So her brother Tom is her twin, and I just have to mention that because I am the mom of twins. I also have a lovely third child who's a singleton, and for years asked when her twin was coming. She got to be 5, she realized it wasn't happening, but she did ask me that for a few years, which was super cute. But yeah, so they are twins, and I, as a sappy mom, just think, oh, wouldn't that be so great if my kids became business partners? It's like a little twin mom's dream come true. So
very cool. And it's funny, I never knew for a long time. I didn't know that they were twins. I didn't know Tracy. I had talked to both Tracy and Tom on the phone. I knew that they were together in partnership in their business, but I had no idea that they were twins. So it was kind of cool to find that out. But where do we start? I mean, this company is so cool. Tracy's so cool. Tom's such a great guy. You get us started here. I don't even know. I've got so much in the brain.
I know. And I tried to sit down and kind of get this in order, but my dog's chewing on something. Maisie, no.
I hope it's not Planet Earth fiber.
No, it's a rattan basket we have that she thinks is interesting. That's just holding some canvas. But
and I've got something in my eye, so we're even.
We're just basket cases.
Always.
Okay, so Tracy had whole other careers, but at one point she decided to open a needlepoint and knitting shop. I believe it's both. And so for those of you that aren't knitters, there's a knitting craft that I don't even know if there's a proper name for it, where you add beads to your yarn. Like as you knit, a bead gets popped down there with this crochet hook kind of thing.
Okay.
And Tracy decided that I think she just wanted her beads put into her yarn, which now, if you've been in the knitting world for any length of time, like you do see that quite often. But at the point in time that she created this yarn, she found the mills, she found everyone who's going to put all these pieces together and created her own yarn line. Which I'm like, okay, I'm a knitting store. Would I be brave enough to create like my own yarn line? Probably not. So that made
Let's
her
take an entrepreneurial to the next level.
wow. Yeah. So, and then I think things just kind of took off from there. It ended up that I think she sold her needlepoint shop and knitting shop for some reason. And then she decided to create a line of needlepoint threads. And that's how Planet Earth was born. So I'm just like amazed by that because I think she's probably a little older than I am. And I don't know that for sure. Sorry, we're not open, so I'm not really sure why people are coming in. Okay, but Melissa's podcasting. Sorry, it's an utter chaos. So anyway, she
So
then
you were,
I'm just amazed because I just wouldn't. She's a little older than I am, so then to like have grabbed that bull by the horns and done all that was amazing to me. So she created Planet Earth. And we'll go through a little bit of how it's not an easy process. We learned a lot from her about that. But the thing that really amazed me was, we all know March 2020 was like, a whirlwind in so many events. And at that point in time, she had started her business. She had 400 employees, most of them in India. It's a fair trade organization. These from talking to her, it sounds like most of the individuals who work for her, this is like their first time really creating a monetary flow for their families.
right.
To this giant city center location where she had facilities for daycare, and they all took public transportation to get to work with their kids. Like just things that I think are amazing that she's taken and created in, a developing country. And so with all that, along comes March 2020, the entire country shuts down 13 weeks. She told us, I think, that they were shuttered in their houses, like literally could not leave their homes. And then, she had to pivot and completely figure out how to recreate this business. And at the same time, the needlepoint demand is blowing up. And she ended up creating these community centers, I think she called them. Was that her word for them?
I think the way she described it is they were originally taking transportation into the like one location, and instead what they've done is kind of split it out. And what I'm understanding is that they're in more like, so instead of a city center, it's like a community center. So it's smaller pods of places where they can still work.
Places where they're working in groups that they didn't have to rely on public transportation, because even once they were able to, then, there was no more curfew, there was no safe way to get to work. So they're in places where my understanding is they can walk to work, bike to work, whatever their transportation mode is that they're not relying on.
And I think the other piece that I think we should point out, maybe this is a good time, is that when I think of a company like Planet Earth, when I think of the multiple, I think we counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 6 lines, we think of mechanisms, right? Like machines that are maybe like creating these things and spinning them together. And every single skein, every single card, every dye process, everything she explained to us is all done by hand, by a person.
Mind blowing to me.
And so I think what that also illustrates is the importance of this workforce, because if they weren't able to get this to the people and find the people to do it, the production would have sort of shut down. And so I just find that amazing. I probably don't know this about me. I briefly worked in a factory. We'll get there someday. But anyway, you think about all these like shipping and picking and packing, and a lot of this is automated, and none of that's what's happening with this particular company. So it's just kind of amazing to me.
It's
and the other part that I think is neat, just to kind of from a world view before we kind of drill it down, is the global production, for lack of a better term.
Well, and as we walk through this, there's so many different continents and countries involved. It is mind-blowing.
Exactly. So where the products come from, where they're actually dyed, where they're, it's all different parts of the world. And it's just sort of fascinating to me that's.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I guess my takeaway was that she was telling us how this is all hand done. And then people say, oh, and I don't know, is it $6.50, $7 a skein? I'm hearing all that. I'm like, wow, like we're
That's
getting
cheap. It's cheap. Yeah. Well, and I think what we also may or may not have just said when we were alluding to it is that there are only 2 employees stateside. So then you've got Tom and Tracy managing this huge company together by themselves here, in Boston.
Employees, my jaw was like down to my belly button, I think.
Right. Because I feel like I have an operation going. She's got an operation going, man. Or they do, excuse me. But yeah, it's unbelievable. So anyway, where do we go from here? Do we start talking about the products? I'm trying to follow my list, but I'm really bad at that. So you got to keep.
Well, I've got the list. We're good. So back to your comment about how international and global this is. The wool is all sourced, the guts of it, for lack of a better word, come from Australia. And so Australian sheep, and the silk is sourced really originally from China. It is all milled in milled in India, but the base products are being sourced from Australia and China. So we've got those two involved, India involved. We'll talk about the dyeing process at some point, but that involves Japan and Germany. And then there's warehouses in India, and I don't know if we call it a warehouse here, but pretty much warehouses here too. And so, I mean, we've almost touched every continent.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Mind blowing. So, her first product I don't even carry, which is kind of embarrassing, but I don't. Sorry. Back to my little small shop, is her 6-ply silk. So I'm going to let you speak to that because I've used it, but you're intimately more familiar with it than I am.
So 6-ply, when I first bought the shop, we had these pliable silks, and it wasn't really my jam. I have since, oh shoot, I meant to bring the piece I'm working on. I just completed a piece using all 6-ply. I love it. It's, again, we keep saying 6-ply. To me, it helps me remember that. So last time we were together, we were talking about a 12-ply. So it is different in that way because I guess it doesn't go as far, half as much in theory. But pardon me?
The yards are on it.
So, yards. I'm sorry. 14 yards.
So it's really like 28 or
right.
Times 3, whatever that is.
Yeah. And so I just realized that they actually give an instruction. They say 3-ply for 18 count mesh. And I think that's true. I even just did, my whole piece was giant brick. And so it was longer stitches, and I did use 3-ply. What I find about this is it is a little thicker than Splendor, which I would probably use 4-ply on 18 count mesh. I don't know why this is, but it kind of falls apart easier to me. Sometimes I have to really work, wake up, remember, wake up.
Yeah.
Splendor's a little sleepier. 6-ply silk is not as sleepy. It really sort of flies apart easier. It's a little thicker. I don't know if the spinning process is a little bit different, but I love it. And the colors are really luscious, just like all of the Planet Earth lines. And so it's a great thread.
Okay. So I think that was the first one she created. And then I'm not sure of the birth order of Planet Earth Silk and Wool. And I have Planet Earth Silk, and I'm not dressed in a cute pink sweater like Megan, but I did pull all Valentine's Day colors.
Oh, nice job. Well, at your suggestion, so did I. So
the Planet Earth Silk, it's very lofty. It's luscious to work with. I absolutely love it. And it is, I can't imagine using it on 18 ever. Like sometimes you can kind of go both ways with certain threads, but to me, this is absolutely 13 or 14. Mm-hmm. I use it occasionally. We see a 16 mesh canvas. I think you could maybe use it, but I don't know. We'd have to play with that.
I haven't tested that, but it does work on 14, which is what Ann Fisher, a lot of hers are painted on.
It's just lovely, lovely, lovely. And while we're holding this up, I will, this is oxygen. Oxygen.
Yeah, so the color isn't coming through super well, but I do think it's interesting that we had a long conversation about the difference between oxygen and natural. No, what are her
No,
two?
oxygen is kind of her natural. Like this is the natural product of the silk for all of her silk lines.
Okay, okay.
This
So
is
so oxygen is the base product, is what she.
all was born from this. So, and then you have the equivalent wool in your shop, right?
Yes, of course I don't have it in front of me because you didn't ask me to. But I have wool. I don't have the oxygen, but I have pink.
Right, you have wool, which
Yeah.
is lovely to work with. Lovely, lovely, lovely.
We love it. We love it on 13 or 18 because it proofs or it condenses well. And yeah, we love this for belts. We love it. It's just a great thread. It's a
And
great.
you know
It's a
what I
good.
love about that particular wool, and it's ironic because I don't carry it just because, space, always my byline. The white is super white.
The white's really white, and I
Like
think that's similar to. Go ahead.
Bellaluso is super white, but like the Vineyard Merino that we carry, which I love too, but its white is not as white as this.
I agree with that. And same goes between Vineyard and Pepper Pot. I don't know, is that what we're coming up on next? Is Pepper Pot? So salt in Pepper Pot to me is a little bit whiter white than Vineyard. White, bright white, do they call it? I think.
Right, they do call it bright white.
Yeah. Okay.
So Pepper Pot comes in these little cute little like folded skeins.
Yep.
Again, I tried to kind of, I went a little corally on this selection, but still Valentine's Day. And it is just a lovely, lovely thread. More designed, obviously, the other Planetary Silk is designed for 13 mesh. This is designed for 18 mesh. That said, many stitchers I know, myself included, will stitch with this on the 13 mesh too. If you're not a tight stitcher, depending on your usage, your stitch choice, all that sort of stuff.
Once again, I say density. So some of these threads will poof on 13 and they'll condense nicely on 18. And you don't find that you're like tugging like you do. Like I find Silk and Ivory, I have to tug. You don't have to tug Pepper Pot to get it through. And I don't know if that's because of that wool content or what, but
you're talking about on 18, because not to like Silk and Ivory on 13 is great, but it's not
correct.
for personal preference for 18, even though we're not talking about them, but even though other people do like Silk and Ivory on 18, that's not my personal preference.
Right. I'm just trying to compare. Yeah.
And Pepper Pot also makes about 20 variegated colors. And I maybe should have picked some other choices. There we go. But see how there's a slight over dye to these. And I love these kind of threads. They're not great for the basket weave stitcher because variegated threads will cause diagonal stripes if you basket weave with them. But if you're doing sand in like a diagonal Hungarian, like I'm trying to see if I can get a good light on there.
Yeah.
But it had some different choices. So it gives a little bit of interest to the piece without having to change up your threads all the time.
Right. We don't carry, I don't know why. And I haven't really ever given it a whole lot of thought why we don't carry. There's a variegated 6-ply and there's a variegated Pepper Pot. And I can't really speak super well to either of them, but I do think that the variegated that I've seen in the 6-ply is a little more more like heavier variegation, heavier than the Pepper Pot. I don't know why, but that's what I've seen.
I carried all the variegated colors long before I carried the solid colors, which
Isn't
makes
that funny?
Really backwards is what it really makes me. But I had Vineyard Silk, and these variegateds they're such a subtle variegation that they're really easy to work with. And sometimes the stronger variegations are a little, you've got to be more conscientious of how you use them.
For sure. Yep. So I think we were trying to do here was the family. So we had the 6-ply, the Planet Earth Silk, the wool, the Pepper Pot,
and then their new baby.
And the baby, Essentials. I
Baby white cards.
love essentials. And
Me into carrying this, and it was a great, great, great decision.
and Tracy and Tom at Market talked me into it because I was like, I don't know, do I need another thread that I have to order, blah blah blah. And they're like, try it, do it, do it, do it. And I was like, oh, fine. We love it, love it. So every person, and my track record isn't, I can't think of my what's the word I'm looking for? My test market isn't huge, but anyone that I have said, if you love silk and ivory and you try and you think that you love it on 18, try essentials and your life is gonna change. And everybody says, oh my God, you are so right. Because it's just, it flies through nicer, but it's the same
Makeup, because
makeup. Thank you, 50-50.
50% Australian wool and 50% silk. And I refer to it in shop, which I probably shouldn't. I call it baby silk and ivory because they're two different companies. So that's why I'm saying I probably shouldn't. But in effect, it's baby silk and ivory.
It is the density, as I always like to say, it's a little less dense, and so it flies through the canvas nicely. So as I've mentioned before on this podcast, we are big belt people here in St. Louis. Lots of people stitch belts. This is a belt stitcher's dream, and one of the reasons is because of the colors are awesome. They're super bright, but they also, the card only has 10 yards. So if you've got like 3 stitches of bright blue and you're like, oh, I don't want to buy a whole skein, it's like, no big deal. It's only 10 yards. You'll use it. You'll use it again for another belt. And it's a wonderful thread with a lot of bright colors. And now I just haven't had time, frankly. Your byline is space. My byline is time. I'm like, I don't have time. I don't have time. They have started scanning essentials. I would say like in the past, 6 months or something. I don't know. 6 months seems about like 3 days.
When I were together when we found out. So in October.
That's right. So, and Melissa, are there 30 yards in that skein?
I believe there's 30 yards. I was just going to double check that. Yes, 30 yards.
So it's the same amount of yardage as the wool.
Yep. Next thread, but a different presentation just from the 10 yards to the 30 yards. So
and for us, again, since I live in belt world, we suggest these all the time for belts because we love the durability. But the people who love to have a little bit of silk in their belt love that essentials and the backgrounds. I think she's mostly scanning. I think she said the most popular colors, but I would have to check on what comes in skeins and what doesn't.
You know, I'm not sure about that either. And what I love about it, and especially since last March, we've done a lot more kitting of canvases for people. And, you know, you and I always talk about like our Midwestern values. I feel guilty selling somebody a $6 or $7 skein of yarn or skein of thread for like, you know, a half an inch of something.
Yes.
So these little $3-ish cards like fill such a void for that for me. It's a nice, really good quality thread. And, you know, if you're kidding Kirk and Bradley travel around for a brand new stitcher, I'm going to probably send you a lot of this. I'm going to send you some fun threads, but I'm going to send you a lot of this because it doesn't break the bank. And so.
Well, and we carry the Pearl 5, and I think you do too, which is what we always tend to go for with the belt icons and the Kirk and Bradley rounds, because what you're saying, it's a good value. There's a lot on a skein, and there is definitely still a place for DMC Pearl 5, but I think for longevity, particularly in ornaments and having that long lasting like heirloom quality, it's really nice to have silk and wool over a cotton. So
I agree. So yeah, that kind of walks us down their thread product line. There's been some others that have kind of come and gone. I know you alluded to the fact that people were like freaking out because they found out silk opal had gone away. Sometimes there's just components of a certain thread that are no longer available. Sometimes Tracy mentioned, and she didn't give us an example, that there's threads that just from a business position don't make sense. Like you only have so much output available, so much storage, so much. So sometimes you have to make business decisions. So there's been some smaller thread lines under her umbrella that have come and gone. But I am positive that these threads are here to stay, at least if I have.
Very strong, very, very strong line, thread line for us. That's for certain. And like I said, the boxes from Rainbow Gallery, sometimes, the boxes from Planet Earth are about the same size as the Rainbow Gallery, the huge, huge quantities that we get. Yeah.
And then as kind of like a sideline, and she made a comment like, well, that's just for fun for me. She has some accessory lines, and those have also come and gone. I know we had like those rattan canister purses that had the tops.
Mhm.
They were available for like a month, and then she couldn't get them anymore. You have, I know, that awesome sample at your shop with the insert. She
I
can't get
snapped it up right away because I loved it so much. Designers came out and had all kinds of great ideas. And then unfortunately, COVID happened. And I believe she said that the company that she invested with actually just went out of business. So it wasn't that she didn't want to carry it anymore. It's just that you can't get them.
And I think from what she said, company might be an overstatement.
Oh,
I-
right. A lot of
Yeah.
artisan community. Yeah.
Kept referring to them as artisan communities,
Mhm.
which is why it makes them so special. And they're not always going to be, absolutely perfect. As a matter of fact, one of the beautiful things that I love are these insert cases. And so like this one, I don't even know if you can see, there's like a couple little bubbles on here. Well, guess what? Somebody made this by hand. And so it's not going to be perfect.
Well, that's right. And the output isn't all that much because as she explained to us, these products are specifically made for our industry. And as much as we live and breathe and sleep and dream needlepoint,
Small
we're small potatoes in the big time world of handbags and silk purses and things. And so she has worked with, I keep pointing like people can see me, like that thing that you have in your hand, whichever way my thing goes. She has worked with them to create this special self-finishing item for needlepoint. And I don't believe that I'm aware of any other industry is using this type of finish. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
I'll just do a quick run through just so she gets credit for everything that at least I have, which I think is most of her line, because I pretty much love everything Tracy does. And so I'm like, oh, Tracy's making it, I'll buy it. So thankfully my customers love them too. So the leather version of the silk case, which is a little bigger opening. And I think she has other sizes and different fabrics. These key fabs are so fun. And guess what? I just ordered. Did you know they make them in pink now?
No, what?
I'm so excited. So pink ones.
No.
I think these come in black, navy, royal, and pink, and
Red, because we were gonna do because of our cardinal red.
Oh yeah. So she was out of some color. I can't remember which color she was out of that I was ordering. And Tom said, "Oh, well, we don't have that, but would you like some pink ones?" And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah, of course I would.
Well, I'm assuming it's going to be the same awesome pink that these coasters are. But I don't know. I'll let you know probably at Friday's unboxing. We'll find out. If it's here. And then my super favorite little hyper organized jewelry box.
Yep. I wasn't organized enough to have all these little samples. So you're doing a great job, Vanna. Keep it up.
Luggage tag.
Love the luggage tag. Do you have the little mini wallet?
I do. What I don't have, because I don't have any in stock right now, is the longer wallet.
She calls it the women's wallet. We have one too. It has a little snap on the back that holds all the cards in. Yeah, I like that. It's a great one too.
Yeah, super fun. Lots of canvas designers make things to fit those items. This one here, this is like totally utilitarian if you ask me. 'Cause this is a 4-inch round, which you can find those any millions of places, probably 50 of them in my own stash. And they're just plain and simple. Oops, there's a little filler on the inside to keep it totally open on the inside. Designed for, like, she said she was originally thinking it was going to be for like people who wore like cuff bracelets and things.
Big
But
ear.
it's awesome for electronic storage stuff.
Yeah, and I have started thinking about organizing my life, and so maybe I'll stitch myself one of these days.
So the accessories,
Those come in a lot of colors now too. I think we have like blue and black, and I don't even know.
tons of colors. I just, like I said, brought all the Valentine's Day colors, except for I didn't have the pink fob yet, so I had to bring them. So
Well,
that's
bummer.
have red and pink because I'm trying to look festive, even though I'm wearing a boring old white sweater. So anyway.
Yeah. And so the product line is pretty vast. What are we missing here? What are we supposed to be? What else?
I'll just the accessories just they will come and go. If you see one of their accessories in a certain color that you love, I honestly would say grab it now. The leather, these leather ones that we were just talking about used to be in a completely different set of colors. Then she couldn't make them anymore, So then they started making these. Now I don't think they're making these anymore. They're back to these in a different color palette. So point is, normally I say, oh, wait and think about it, sleep on it, make sure you love it. With these, I honestly say grab them while you can, because the intent is to keep producing them, but because she works with these small artisan communities, you never know like what's going to change when. So
But the one thing that stays very true, and are we ready to talk about the dyeing process?
well, I thought we talked about the production in general, like, and how long the production process is, which is to me a little mind blowing.
Well, so yeah, so that's kind of what I was getting at. So these accessories that she's doing kind of come and go, does she best she can with the product she gets, and we keep saying she, they, pardon me.
We just happen to talk to Tracy, so that's why we keep saying she.
That's right. So the product they get comes and goes, but the product that they the products that seem to be really very true and have a lot of longevity for them are their thread lines. And so she did mention to us though that, like, let's say somebody goes to her or Tracy and Tom and says, hey, I really think you should do blah kind of thread. She says, oh, that's a great idea. She told us 2 years it takes for them to like get an idea, find the base product, get the recipe, get the right.
Yeah, so 1 year for test milling. So that's just to create this boring old oxygen based thing. So a year, and then another year to test the dyeing process and to plan the scanning and the tagging and all the other stuff that goes in it. There's these big giant things of roving or silk. What are those things called? Silk. She gives the word skivers. I can't remember the technical term. Tracy had it all down. That's why we wish she was here to fill in the
okay. The little thingy that they use to pull the silk out of.
Yeah, that thingy. It takes a long way to go from that to this neat little card with the tags on it, with the hole in it to hang on the peg. Like, that's all the stuff we take for granted, but it's an important part of the process.
Which is why the piece to me is so amazing. I barely know what I'm doing later tonight. I mean, I hope I do. Like, at this point, I think I know what we're having for dinner, but like, I don't know what's going to happen in 2 years. I mean, the idea that they have to plan so far ahead with the ordering of the base product, the communication of the amounts of the, it's just amazing to me how far ahead they have to think on this stuff, particularly in this kind of a climate. So when you walk into our store and we don't have pepper pot salt, and you're like, man, that's a bummer. Next time be like, oh gosh, that has to go from what was it, Australia to somewhere in Asia to some other place in Asia to some place in Boston, then here. So it's just frankly amazing that it all gets to us at some point. But go ahead.
So produced in India, the warehouses are there for the most part. There's a smaller American warehouse, or US warehouse, I should say. Big warehouses in India. And so I was like, oh, well, how does it all get here? Which led us into another really fascinating conversation.
Kind of.
So, like shipped over, like, I'm thinking like it's getting thrown on some sort of giant ship, just like a lot of like when the expats come home, everything gets shipped over. And we got a whole discussion and education on the fact that it has to be air freighted because silk can absorb up to 20% of its own weight in water, and it has no memory, so it won't go back. So if any of you are knitters, like the thing about wool has memory. Like you can make like Megan's cute little cat that she wears. It stretches to go on her head, and when it comes off of her head, it goes back to a smaller shape, and then it stretches to go, and that's how it fits. Well, silk doesn't have any memory. For needlepoint, it doesn't matter, except for that means that if it soaks up a bunch of water, it takes on a different appearance.
So moisture control is a very important part of exporting and importing textiles, and which we learned particularly in this thread capacity, which then
led to an epiphany for all three of us.
Started by me, who had brothers. Okay, just so you remember. So I said, oh, well, that's why the silk belts look so dirty sometimes. And she's like, what are you? And Melissa goes, I love silk on belts. And I'm like, yeah, Do you love silk on these men that wear their belt with khaki shorts to the baseball game and it like soaks through and it gets all nasty and then it's like yuck?
In humid St. Louis summers.
So if you are a St. Louisan stitching a belt and you think that the person you're stitching it for is going to wear it a lot, you should use Planet Earth wool or Essentials. Anyway, we had a good laugh about that. And if anybody else wants to go down like the rabbit hole of the silk absorption situation that we went down, give us a call later, but we're going to run out of time here on the podcast.
Yeah, I use silk on belts all the time. I don't think it's a problem, but that's because I am not a sweaty person. Like I'm freezing all the time. So I barely ever sweat.
So funny.
So it's just not an issue for me. But it all made sense when you were talking about how you don't like silk on belts. I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. I tell people to use silk all the time. So it depends on how the wearer is going to wear it.
So yes. And so outside of that though, it also brought up the point about the dyeing process. So this is why dye lots tend to change. And it's actually amazing to me that they don't change more than they do. Number one, it's dyed in a pretty large.
A 6 to 8 foot vat.
Right. I knew I was going to say a vat, but I wasn't sure if that was right. So yes, so a very large quantity. But you know, depending on the time of year.
Too many drinks at Tulane.
What is it again?
When I was at Tulane in college, you drank the vat. That's what it was called. We went to a fraternity party. So I remembered vat. Go ahead.
The word vat stuck with you. But yeah, so depending on the time of year, whether it's the rainy season or the dry season, or that could cause the dye to be more or less absorbed into the thread, and cause the dye lot to change slightly. And like I said, to me, it's amazing that it doesn't change more than it actually does.
Grace was telling us that like they try to obviously adjust for that. It's not like they say, oh, well, you know, but you know, there's only so much you can do to change the recipe without drastically changing the color to try to get closer together. And the other thing that she said in terms of that, which I thought was really interesting too, is she said that the lighter colors have more of a dye lot change than the darker colors. And I'm not sure I remember why that is, but I wrote that down. I took very good notes, but now
because of the chemistry of the color, I think it had something to do with yeah, I can't remember. But I do remember that she said the white, remember this part? Dyed 3 times. Huh?
Well, that was my burning question, because I have noticed, as many other stitchers have over the years, that the white of most thread lines is slightly thinner than its counterparts that are colored. And I was like, so tell me why. Like, this has been my burning stitcher question for years, which is ridiculous. This is all I have to think about, but it has been a burning question. Hey. So yeah,
you heard it here first.
We thought that it was like, I think a lot of stitchers, and I think we even talked about it, think that it's because it's been bleached, but it's not bleach. It's because it's had to been dyed. Bleach would turn it yellowy, which I think we all know if we think about that. But it's dyed. Not most threads are dyed one time, and it goes through the process 3 times, which I guess my takeaway is that like slightly breaks down the fiber a little bit.
Handled more, and it has to like dye and then dry and then dye, you know. So yeah, I think it's just that it was manipulated more. Mushed it. It got more mushed.
Mm-hmm. The other thing we talked about a little bit too is that people, when we were talking about silk for belts, and we got into the whole like water absorption thing. But the other thing is that, especially again, this goes back to us being a knitting store as well as a needlepoint store. Silk is amazingly strong. People don't give it enough credit for that. We have sock yarn that's like has silk in it, and people knit socks with it all the time. So silk is super strong. It is, Trace pointed out that it is moth proof, which is obviously different from wool. And it doesn't mold at all. And I don't know if she meant that other threads mold. I don't know where that comparison was, but we were just kind of all counting the fact that for wearability, it's a little bit underappreciated, I guess, because it's stronger than most people give it credit.
I guess as a thread salesperson, you just always like to know the value added qualities of your product. So sharing that with us.
There we go. Talk about blah, 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 blah.
The only thing, go ahead.
But different colors are more expensive / more difficult to dye. So
Right.
like blues are way harder to dye than oranges. And we didn't really go into all the reasons why, but we had a whole like kind of mini business discussion about how like blue might cost this much and orange might cost this much, and then white's going to cost a lot more because it's been hand dyed 3 times. But we as consumers are all paying the same thing. So all those people, you're going to say the word because I won't be able to say it. What's that blue and white stuff called?
Oh gosh, you're gonna make me say it again. Chinoiserie. Chinoiserie.
This is why everyone loves it, because really you're getting a lot of bang for your buck right there, because
The
it's
blue and the white. That's right. That's right. That's right. You know, and the other thing, I don't know that we really hit home on this yet today, but something that we talked about a lot with the Rainbow Gallery is that really the whole thread line is very versatile. It works on, so if you have it in your stash and you've got some wool and you're like, oh, I'm on 13. Well, this will work on 13. I would say the thinnest, the most inflexible of the Planet Earth family is probably the Essentials because it's finer, but it has its purpose. But I would say from
I don't think this silk goes very well.
oh, that won't work on 18. That's true. So the baby and the big daddy, they're not
18. This doesn't work on 13, but everything else can kind of go either way.
ply up or ply down. This does its own kind of condensing, and the pepper pot the same. It kind of does its own condensing and I don't know, bursting for the I don't know how else to say it, but it just kind of like opens up. It just kind of works. So
Well, and the other question I get sometimes, because these are all, with the exception of the 6-ply, these are all what I call cut and go threads. So people always ask, well, why would I pick vineyard silk versus pepper pot? And then sometimes Planet Earth silk, so the 3 of them get compared. So to me, sometimes it's just color based between pepper pot and vineyard, like who has the better shade that's perfectly to your liking. And sometimes it's also whether they're a tight stitcher or a loose stitcher, or how you're using the thread. So to me, if you put all 3 in a row, vineyard is the skinniest,
yes.
the pot's in the middle, and then Planet Earth silk's on this side. So pepper pot can go either way, which is kind of what you're saying. Vineyard silk for some people can go either way, but it's definitely lighter in appearance when you stitch with it than pepper pot is, just a hair.
Right. And this hasn't been, I haven't actually tested this, but I'm just kind of based on like a practical observation. I would say if you're a scooper, you may have not such great luck with pepper pot on 13 because you're going to be pulling that a lot harder and you're not going to give it like the space to kind of air out between. So you're probably going to find that it's not going to give you as much great coverage, I would say. But if you're, just, it's really all about trial and error. And so that's why it's great if you've got a friend or you've got a great shop that you can say, hey, can I try a little bit of that? We've got some polls. We'd be happy to give you some just to test something out if you haven't tried it. Or if you're ordering from us and you're like, I always order a vineyard, but you know what? I really would like to try out some Planet or some pepper pot. We'd love to sell you a skein, but we're also happy to throw in a couple. Tracy's really good about giving us samples. We get little extras in our boxes every once in a while. So anyway, I just want to encourage everyone to try everything and don't get stuck in a rut because there is so many options out there.
Also, that kind of goes back to one of our 21 and 21 things is have a friend kit you something from their staff or have a shop kit you something from their walls, and try not to control the process because that will kind of force you to try some new things and you might find your new like best friend thread.
And I get the question a lot too. So like people look at these two and they're like, oh, these should never be on the same canvas, right? And I'm like, why not? I mean, maybe not these colors, but a fuzzy teddy bear on you're going to get a little bit of a different texture, a little bit of a different from this guy than you are from this guy. And especially depending on your stitch, maybe you want your teddy bear to pop out a little bit, but you want this guy to be a 3-ply and have a thinner look. And so, yeah, there's a lot of reasons why these two guys might be really nice on the same canvas.
I rarely stitch a canvas
in all the same thread.
I don't know if I ever have.
I bet you if you are a Bargello person, that is a reason why you'd want all the same. I would say because you just want that pattern to match exactly. But I'm with you. otherwise I can't see a reason. Well, or a belt maybe, but even a belt, you could use a few ply of this for your icons and this for your background. So
I think the last thing we asked Tracy about, because we have people talk to us about it all the time, is
I know what you're going to say.
fun to be the person who gets to name all the colors.
The color names. I'm like, I love pickle and jelly bean. They're some of my faves.
My favorite ones are romance and desire and cherub and baby. So I mean,
Red hot.
names. And so that was kind of one of our burning questions. And Tracy said she pretty much names them all. She's kind of selfish that way. Wink, wink.
And it was kind of one of those where she said, we do some research, we have fun kind of working together on it, and, Googling some pictures to see what things look like. So it's really not as mysterious or exciting of a process as we wanted to believe it was. Well, hi, Maisie. Are you going to make an appearance, you little fluffer?
You have to look at your people.
Hi,
yeah, so that was kind of fun. She said she like sometimes went on some of the paint websites like, Sherwin-Williams or whatever.
Oh, paint chips and things to see what matched. Yep.
And
Yep.
picked themes that way and took inspiration from some of those other things that have, they have even more colors than she has, which is kind of hard to believe. So
Just kind of amazing. Yep. And she, one other point we sort of made with the Rainbow Gallery is that at market, typically everybody says, what have you got that's new? And so I think they work to try to come up with new ideas, new colors, typically in a cycle. I don't think we specifically pressed her on that. Poor girl. They have so much going on right now. I didn't have the heart. But so this has been fun. I think we've pretty much covered it.
Well, I did make sure to say to her, now I am on auto ship for all the new colors, right?
You did. And I said, well, I am.
I can't miss out on anything. We don't have market now. Like, what if there's something new and I missed an email? She's taking good care of all of us, which then allows us to take good care of all of you. So.
That's exactly right. So anyway, this is a company we love. We get a lot of mileage from these threads. So I hope you're all learning something. I
feel the need to mention is, as we said, there's only 2 of them here. I send in my orders. I think Tom does all the order entry. And Tracy does all the packing. And I order, like, it doesn't even all fit on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper in little tiny writing. And she will ship it out the next day.
Yeah, they're amazing. Some of the hardest workers in the business, that's for sure. That's for sure.
Really, really great customer service. We just love working with them and their products. So
it's great because it's a family-centric business. They do it in partnership, and not only that, but you're also helping a lot of the fair trade in other countries, which is awesome too. I love that. So, and I would say that's true of a lot of our industry, really, but particularly we know for sure this company. So,
because we did our research this time.
We did our research this time. Good girls.
We're learning. It's only taken us 10 months, but yeah.
Hey, you know what? We can wax on all day, and then we can get the true scoop later. It's fine.
Get it home pretty well. We'll let Tracy give us a review later on.
That's right. So
okay. Well, this was great. I'm gonna go home. I actually pulled. I had one of those little Stitches Angels made with a custom one with Cap Alpha Theta on it for my daughter.
Cute.
And I did not pull these threads because we're black and gold, but I pulled all Planet Earth threads to do it with. So I'm really excited about it.
So stay tuned. That we keep promising we're going to do this, and one of these days we're going to get a little smarter about, not smarter, but more specific about talking about our 21 and 21. And I've been working on it. I just haven't told anybody about it.
I have too.
Same. And I'm actually taking something new home today.
Can't wait to see. You'll have to shoot me a picture later. Let us know.
It was really hard, anyway.
21, you could knock off with this episode because one of them was to organize your threads. So hopefully we've motivated you to organize your threads, but we've got a little more something up our sleeves about that. And what did I talk about? Oh, have somebody mystery kit your threads. So you mystery kit your canvases so you can try some new threads.
That's exactly right. We're happy to do that. And so are you. And if you want to do it on Planet Earth, we would be happy to do that too. So
a little bit of everything because it's fun. More is more.
Yeah. Always. All right, you all. Well, thank you. Hopefully you've all, haven't already, subscribed to the podcast. It's just a little subscribe button. I think it's easiest if you have a Google account. But if you have any questions about that, please feel free to send us a message. And as always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Spend time with you. See you soon.
Bye.